So it's transferred, and then it's gone to the north. Also, up to the north at the Puget Sound, more earthquakes. These aren't tremors, these are actually earthquakes. Now, this is technically east of Puget Sound, but you go back a day and a half, take a look at the other earthquakes that struck in the Puget Sound itself. Now, all this increase in activity up in Washington brings me over to the slow slip page, guys. Well, I'm sorry, the tremor map, which I'm using to show you the slow slip that's going on. Now, last night we titled our video, Slow Slip Stops, ? Because last night we showed you, and it was completely quiet, no earthquakes reported. Well, maybe two. I think there was two on there, maybe three. 3 earthquakes reported. Now look at the last 24 hours. Look what we've got going on. A return of earthquakes. So a return of earthquakes, I don't know. Was their site down? No explanation given. If I click 48 hours, it only adds like 1 or 2 earthquakes to it. So, I wonder, did they go down, or is there, did it just pause a day? But with the pause, resuming today, look what's happening. Let me zoom in on the area. If you live up in Washington, this should be of concern to you. The slow slip, small now, well, it's small right now, maybe a couple dozen small tremors starting to return around Olympia. Now, the previous location that swarmed was right here. Now, I'm going to show that to you, so a picture speaks 1,000 words, as I say 1,000 times in my updates. Well, we're going to do that one more time. Let's go to the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network tremor map, and we're going to go back in time. Now, just keep in mind, we were just looking at today's earthquakes or tremors. So we'll click on the map. Okay, make sure we've got the right location here. And let me zoom in just ever so slightly. Okay, so here's today, right? They've got these marked on here. Perfect. Now we're going to go back a month. Let's go back to April 2nd. Okay, see that? Okay, now we're going to go back a previous day, April 1st. Then we're going to go back another day, March 31st. March 30th. We're going back in time. Watch it transfer. Look, we're going to go back down to the origin point of this swarm. March 26th. See how it's creeping back down? Okay, so we're going to keep going. March 22nd. March 21st. Keep going, keep going. See, we're getting back into mid-March now. So this is how long the slow slip's been going on. Oh, their site went down for a few days, I believe. They were doing some kind of maintenance on their site, I think for a week. Was it 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. Their site just didn't report any earthquakes in the Northwest at all. No tremors. But see, okay, so now we're back on March 1st. Now we're on at end of February. And this is where they said the slow slip stopped. So we found posts by April saying that the slow slip had completely stopped. Well, now I'm going to bring you forward in time. Okay, so we're going back forward. We're going to go click by click, obviously. Bring it back up to the 2 weeks missing. There we go. And we get back to today's date, March, April, May 7th. And here we are again, back at Olympia. What does that mean? It means to me that the slow slip is carrying on, or at least it's resuming. Maybe it stopped for a minute and it's starting again. But this is tricky. This is tricky. I mean, it's bouncing around. Look how it came out of California. Either California stopped reporting earthquakes or the tremors stopped in California. Well, let's get back over to the earthquake reports and see what the actual earthquakes are as opposed to the tremors. Now, we have to differentiate. The professionals don't report to you the tremors. They're not showing you the tremors on the USGS site. You have to go to the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network to see these small zeros, ones, and 2.0 earthquakes. Even though they're microquakes, they're not showing them to you. But when you look at the USGS reported microquakes, you'll see, well, guys, there's a drop-off, a serious drop-off in activity. So where we had huge stacks of earthquakes, now there's just ones and twos, just a few, and I mean just a couple. Any longtime viewer, guys, this is 24 hours worth of microquakes. 0.0 and greater. So it's obvious there's a missing number of earthquakes all the way across the West Coast. It has gone somewhat quiet. Now, this follows yesterday's noteworthy movement down in Southern California at your pumping operations. Okay? So when I only see 1 or 2 earthquakes at each location, when I see an area that dropped off dramatically and there's no earthquakes here, and instead I see up to the north, we see earthquakes reported along with tremors, picking back up in a slow slip? What's going on? Well, it appears pressure has transferred from the 4 all the way over to the Oklahoma pumping operation. That's what caused today's 3. So the 4 has transferred over to the east. It's also transferred down to the south, causing yesterday's earthquakes down in Southern California, which we talked about in last night's update, which I will show to you right now. Excuse me. Wait for it to populate. Okie dokie, and let's only look at the larger earthquakes. So here's our 3s, for instance. So down in Southern California, Santa Barbara coast, struck by a 3.2. I showed that to you as well. It was more like an upper 3 to near 4. And just like the one in Oklahoma, also 3.2. They're doing this weird downgrade thing to protect the oil companies, I think. I can't prove that, but it just makes sense to me. Look, they took both of them to 3.2. Either that or they're both 3.2s related across 2,000 miles. Which is it? I would say they're both 4.0s, caused by the 4.2 up to the north. They were dramatically downgraded to draw away ire and suspicion from anyone, to, bury it away in the history books, as opposed to a 4 that gets everybody's attention and, sends off alerts and apps go off and all kinds of stuff, and people look at the location. I mean, if everybody goes and looks up this location off the coast of California, you'll find out why they did the downgrade. Okay, you'll find out why they're trying to draw attention away from this spot. Here, I'll show you. I already showed you the spot in Oklahoma. That's a pumping operation, right? Well, same-sized earthquake struck yesterday right here, right next to the offshore oil platforms. So here are the offshore oil platforms. This one's called Platform Hill House. This one's called Oil Platform A, B, and C. I don't know what that is all about. Installed 1977, water depth 192 feet. Oil Platform C. I guess that's part of this Hill House thing. Okay, anyways. So there's a large pumping operation offshore, and then it goes on land right here, right down to the beach. It picks up, see where these roads are kind of squiggly lined, all right? Well, if you follow the roads up, what you'll find are oil wells. There we go. You'll find oil wells down here, and of course they're doing oil extraction, oil and gas extraction. And it goes all the way over to the east. See all these? Looks like little ant mounds, okay? Well, these are all different pumps. And it doesn't just stop there. It goes across into North Los Angeles, actually. North LA. Okay, so it goes all the way over to here. They're doing this whole range out into Ventura and then out in the ocean. Well, it was struck yesterday. So now today, it was struck interior to the coast. Now it's gone quiet, with the slow slip picking back up on the west coast, particularly in the Pacific Northwest going down to Oregon. California, you've gone quiet. What does that mean for California? Well, if you go quiet, quiet's not good. Quiet's not good in a seismically prone area. You normally want to see small swarms releasing your pressure. If you go quiet, it means building pressure. Normally, there's warning signs in the days that lead up to an earthquake off the coast. That just happened. So we already saw the 4 off the coast. That's pushed interior, caused the movement down in Southern California at the pumping operations at Santa Barbara, and over in Oklahoma at the pumping operations there. It's also excited things at Yellowstone. But with the slow slip going on, I told you guys, we're going to watch it for, how many days are we in now? I think we're 8 days in on the 10-day. So we have, 2 more days to go? 2 more days to go. If nothing happens in the next 2 days, I'm going to just stop talking about it. I'm going to tell you to have a plan and be prepared, but, I mean, we've been going for 8 weeks. It's the slow slip hit. They said it stopped back in April. They said it stopped back in April. How can they say it stopped back in April when we're looking at it going on here now at May 7th and transferring around in zones, skipping around in zones, clusters of 20, 30, 50, 100 earthquakes in one spot and then transferring to the next and then transferring to the next. To me, that seems like the slow slip area is shifting north, south, center, north, south, center. And if that's the case, then we're going to be seeing a large earthquake develop at some point here mixed in with it, more than the 4 that just hit. And that leads me back to the original forecast, which is the original 2012 slow slip caused a 7.7 earthquake. That was just in Vancouver, the slow slip. So it was just Vancouver Island, just in Vancouver Island where the slow slip happened back in 2012, September and October, 6 weeks, followed by a 7.7. Well, here we are, we're 8 weeks. We're at hundreds more earthquakes. The distance is 600 miles, not just off the coast of Vancouver Island. What does that say to you guys? If you see an area way bigger moving with way more earthquakes, over a longer period of time. Doesn't that mean that there could be some kind of follow-up event that's greater than what happened in 2012? Well, if the 7.7 struck as a result of just Vancouver Island moving in 2012, then what's going to result from this? Hopefully nothing. Hopefully, again, I don't forecast slow slip events normally. This is my first foray into it. So I'm learning as I'm going. You guys are too, and you're seeing it transfer every day at this point. Some days go quiet and then pick back up. And they said it stopped. Quote them. I mean, you can go, Patrick Pumphrey, one of my moderators, found the link to their thing, their whole forum over on the Pacific Northwest, where they're talking about how it stopped. Looks like it stopped. Well, what's going on now, guys? Because, I mean, again, it's back in Olympia. It's not like we're talking about somewhere else now. We're talking about right back in the Puget Sound, where it all began 8 weeks ago. That's a big deal to me. It's something that we need to pay attention to, and it's something you in the Northwest should not ignore. So while we're getting down to the end of my warning time, and like I said, if I get to day 10 and nothing's hit, well, then I'm going to be canceling my watches and my warnings. I'll still be watching, and I'll have you guys watching too, but we won't be, walking around looking for some imminent earthquake, because if this slow slip's going to carry on and carry on and carry on and carry on, then it's just it's a matter of a long period of time. Then we're going to see a large earthquake off it. It'll just be much bigger than the 7.7. That's bad news. I don't like that. I'd rather see the earthquake or a swarm of earthquakes release the pressure and be done with it, like in all the other events. Something's going on here. Now, what's carrying it on? I think new pressure. I think new pressure has been reintroduced to this whole thing from the new deep earthquake event. So the new deep earthquake event is causing basically movement all the way around the entire plate, including the United States. So that means